Hey everyone, Glenn from Facklands Fish here again. Got a little video on today where we're going to do some worming of fish using a product from the agriculture industry that's hopefully going to tidy up some species I'm keeping that have gone off the boil breeding wise, and I'm just trying to eliminate some potential causes for lack of breeding. Hope you enjoy it. So the method I'm going to be showing today is it's not nothing I invented. I can't lay claim to that, but it was first passed on to me and mentioned about 10 years ago by a couple of good friends. First and foremost, Glenn over in the UK. Hey mate, if you're watching, and I believe he might have got this info from a fellow called Mike, also a solid fish citizen up in Sydney. Hope you're watching. Hope you're well. And based on the input they gave me, I went off and did some research, and sure enough, there's plenty on the web that backs this method up. I'm going to be putting a link in the description under the video with a really good article that goes through the whole rationale for this chemical and this methodology as a transposition from a treatment for land-based animals, and it works real well in the aquarium scenario. It gets you past that level of having to get a vet to come look at your fish and look. Not that I'm saying that's a bad thing, but I've got 114 tanks here, thousands of fish. It's not always practical to seek that professional set of opinion and advice to treat your fish. What I'm doing here today is it's based on many years of experience and recognising some symptoms in some fish that I have that you'll find in the article that's linked as likely symptoms. I have fish swimming around the room that are excreting that long strand of translucent sort of stringy poo. Basically, there's no nice term for it. That's a symptom. I've got some fish that are a bit on the skinny side, despite the fact they seem to eat well. You get the odd fish with a growth, a bump, or whatever. We've all had it. Where you think it's a tumour, you think it's a cyst, you don't know who can diagnose all that. And most of all, I've got some important fish in this room that have bred for me in the past, and for whatever reason aren't anymore. And that's despite my water parameters, my feeding regimes, a lot of stuff that I do control being the same. Therefore, what's the difference? Fish aren't too old. So what I'll be doing here today is to do a treatment of symptoms. I've got another mate that'll be maybe yelling at the screen now. You don't want to be treating with serious medications routinely. Like you don't want to build up immunity to medications when fish are well and they're not carrying what you think they are. But I strongly suspect I've got some fish that are carrying some internal parasitic load, be it worm, be it paramecium, or the other cooties. I want to rule out worms today, and the method I'm going to go through with the Lavamisole is it's going to tick that box. I can put a line through it. So this is the product I'm going to be using today. It's Sykes brand Big L Pig and Poultry Wormer. The L stands, I presume, for Lavamisole, which is the active ingredient. Now, whilst this is targeted at pig and poultry worming, it's there's some good evidence around the web that suggests it works well in aquarium situation. I have used this in the past and got good results. One thing to be mindful of if you're going to have a go at this one is the pig and poultry wormer, and there is a secondary product which does cattle and sheep, and I believe the main difference is obviously the concentration. The method I'm working with today is for this 1 ml of Lavamisole of the Big L into every 7 litres of your tank water. And we're treating the water. You could maybe play with this and do it where you're treating food, but I'd rather just treat the water to make sure that fish that are potentially not feeding every time get exposure to the product. So the reason we're worming today is this fish here in particular. This is a Reccomend caliurus, incredibly rare Tanganyikan species that we're very lucky to still have in the country. I've bred these in the past, but for whatever reason they've gone quiet, and so I'm just wondering whether there's a underlying issue with the worms, and I would like to eliminate that as a possibility. So that's the main reason we're treating today, is to get these guys hopefully cleaned out. The two down that end look okay, but let's we're going to do this whole tank today. Hello beautiful, you are an amazing creature. A little trick I'm going to capitalise on today, like this is a 250 odd litre tank, and I'm going to medicate the tank, so that's a reasonable amount of medication, but I don't have to necessarily treat this tank as it stands where it's full to the brim. I'm going to stooge it a bit, and I'm going to drop the level down by about a quarter, which it'll save a couple of bucks on the medication without impacting on the effectiveness of that treatment, and the filters will still run. All I really need to do is take them off their little rock pedestals when I drop the height, so that they still function and flow correctly. Now once again, I've by the design of my shed, this dropping the water level is going to be real easy. All we're doing is basically turning on a tap, and now my water level will drop as the water goes down the spout into the drain. And it should only take us a minute or so to dump that 60 odd litres, bring us down to around the 180 mark is what I'll end up with. Still a good volume of water to treat. Shouldn't stress the fish out too much, but you know, you're not wasting that extra 30 odd % of medication if you don't have to. I'm really hoping this medication is going to give these guys a little lift. They are just such a spectacular creature, and it would be so nice to get these two going again after maybe 18 months of nothing happening. And once again, I'm not sure why nothing's been happening. All I'm trying to do is eliminate things that I can control, and hopefully one of those things is pathogens that may be just stealing some of the nutrition that these fish consume, and should be petitioning towards the reproductive side of things. I think we're down now to about 3/4, so I'm going to turn that off now. I'll get up on a ladder shortly and adjust those filters. I've already poured my medication out, nothing terribly exciting to see there. I'm working on 180 litres and I've got just over 25 mils of this liquid here, which gives us the 1 mil treating 7 litres dosage rate that we've discussed already. Here we go, here we go. The plan now is to obviously let that do its work, and we'll check back in about 24 hours and we'll see what we see. So this is another tank we're going to treat. I've already actually dumped the meds in, but these dimicomps, the dimidocronus depressiceps, got some nice juveniles here, and there is a larger pair, but the larger ones came from a different place, and whilst they eat food like absolute pelicans, they're very thin. So I'm hoping to get some. Just as I said, you get 4. Just tick off the box that says they might be carrying something in the form of worms, and let's hope that this will clear them out and we'll see an improvement, because I'd really like to be breeding some. We're about 24 hours on now. Here's our tank that we treated first yesterday, Reccomend. One of the sort of side effects of this med is that it can make the fish a bit cagey, a bit flighty. I seem to remember being advised back in the day to possibly turn your lights off on the tank when you do this. The fish aren't darting about, but they're obviously not as front and centre as they were this time yesterday. Our big fish is in behind the filter there. Everyone's still here. They're looking a bit little bit flat, I suppose, but that's to be expected. We've put a substantial medication in there, which is certainly potentially given them a jolt. Now, I'm not seeing any evidence of dead or paralysed worms lying around the tank. There's certainly nothing up the glass, which I do remember doing this once years ago with discus, and it was really apparent that they were carrying a big load of cooties. The next part of the job though is I can't just assume that there's nothing there. I'll now need to do a good water change and a vacuum clean, a gravel clean, because at this stage we've potentially only made our fish expel any worms they were carrying in their gut. Oh, hello. This, as far as I know, the Lavamisole, it doesn't necessarily kill the worms. It might paralyse them, I believe, is what I've read in that article that we referred to earlier. And therefore those worms are possibly still hiding in corners of this tank now and in a bit of a state. The fish are starting to sort of come out now that I've stood here for a few minutes, so that's encouraging. They're certainly not completely spent under a filter somewhere, which is always the worry when you're doing a substantial medical procedure, where if your fish were under the 8 ball, they could potentially drop off. I'm optimistic that after a day or two of fresh new water, these guys will be feeling a lot better. But having said that, we do need to do a retreatment, because as mentioned, this doesn't necessarily mean there's no worms here anymore. There still might be eggs that have survived the treatment, which we will have to retreat when they hatch to knock off any larvae. After that second treatment, we should be in the clear. The other tank we did last night was the Demicom tank down the bottom here, and these fish are really a bit towy and sulky. Obviously this tank needs a good clean. The glass was dirty before I even started this job last night. But there's plenty of signs of life in there. No one's floating, so we'll get all the structure out of this tank and give it a good going over a bit later on after dinner, and I'll touch base again tomorrow. So that'll be sort of 2 days on after treatment, 1 day on after tank clean and fresh water, and we'll see how the fish are looking then. So we're midway doing our post worming clean. I've taken out all the rock and filters and whatnot so that I can get a good go at the sand. We've done a good swish with that hose. I ran it for a couple of minutes just straight to the drain, and I've sort of swept and vacuumed the floor as best I can. I never found any great evidence of any worms. Fish wise, our 3 Reccomend are really looking bright and happy, which I'm real pleased with. Albino female girl there looking like she might lay soon, and then just to sort of reiterate the gentle, like whilst this treatment does go hard, it's also gentle in its own way. I've not long stripped over here a little batch of hard for me to do this camera, but we've got some Chilo, Alonicara, Stuart Grant Eye, Chilo Elo, red shoulder. So she's held those, and those fry look fine despite swimming in that medication for a few days. And I'll just give an update on this. I actually did this tank yesterday. This is the Demicomps. This tank's had the treatment, and now it's had that same clean where I took out all the structure and gave it what for. Now big female comp, still not looking magnificent, but everyone else in the tank is they're scoffing the food down. They're looking for food, so I certainly haven't done them any harm. And the colour on our male comp's still looking alright, so I think he's feeling okay too. So here we are. This is our final product. The Reccomend tank has now had a clean after about 3 days of sitting in the medication. The fish look real good, real colours looking great. They've been feeding well. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy that these fish have scored some benefit out of this procedure. I hope that the new folks enjoyed the video, and I really strongly recommend you get to reading that article that I've linked in the description. It's quite an interesting read. Thanks for watching. See you again.